Hello everyone, I'm Albert and welcome to adding AI or ML to your automations with AI Center. What ML models does AI Center offer? Great question. AI Center offers more than 25 pre-built ML models in document processing, object detection, text classification, sentiment analysis, entity recognition, demand forecasting, anomaly detection, and many more. If you want to use your own ML models, AI Center operates exactly how it would with a pre-built model.
Hello everyone and welcome to our .NET Day. My name is Sead and we will kick off the event with an interesting workshop about robotic process automation in .NET. And in the afternoon we are going to have 3 very interesting talks about GraphQL machine learning and gRPC in .NET. Before we start with the workshop, I would like to remind you that we have our JavaScript Congress in November. And that actually means we have really 3 days full of JavaScript talks with experts from all around the world. So if you have not checked it out, you can do it basically now or today later after the event. Make sure to have a look and grab your ticket. As always, I'm asking you to be engaged in the chat, especially in the workshop also. We have our speakers are very happy to answer all of your questions after their sessions. We will do a short Q&A. And also, please, as always, respect our code of conduct. Here is a short video to explain it. So with all of that said, it's a pleasure to announce our first session, a workshop about RPA, and I'm very happy to announce our first speaker. She is a service delivery manager, a Uipath MVP, and a true expert when it comes to robotic process automation. So please welcome Maria on stage.
Hi everyone.
Hi Maria.
Welcome.
Hi, how are you doing?
Today, I'm fine, thank you. And
Cool.
Thank you for inviting me as a speaker to this nice conference.
It's a
I'm
pleasure.
very excited to be here.
Maria, do you want to tell us a bit up front what are we going to learn from you in the workshop?
Yes, today in the workshop, as the title says, it will be an RPA crash course from the perspective of a .NET developer, which is myself. It will be an introduction into the world of RPA. We will have basically an overview of the RPA platform, the entire ecosystem, its main tools. And then I would very much like to build together with you a first automation process. We will have also a Q&A session and 2 small quizzes.
Okay, cool. Maria, thank you very much. The stage is yours. Have fun.
Thank you. So as I just mentioned, I just want to thank you again. Today, I would like to spend the following minutes with you diving into the world of RPA. For today, I have planned a short intro about myself and the communities I'm involved in. Then I will jump directly into what RPA is, the difference between .NET and RPA as I see it, and why I chose RPA and Uipath. Followed, uh, it will be followed by this. It will be an entire chapter of a full focus on RPA technology and what it has to offer. Where, as I just mentioned, I would like to build together a demo, a small one, and then I will focus on how you can enlarge the Uipath library with a custom build model done in Visual Studio, and how easy it is to connect the two technologies. And between the slides, I included small quizzes, and in the end, I reserved some minutes for Q&A session. So I encourage you to use the chat. I'd already opened it also on my screen, and if I will look there or if I miss something, I will ask you to be patient so that I can manage both screens, the presentation one and the one with the chat. Now let's begin. As it was just mentioned, I'm Maria. I'm the solution software architect at Accessa. In the same time, I have also the role of service delivery manager. There are two-in-one roles at Accessa, but 2 years ago, I started and I became a software robotics enthusiast. Actually, my journey as a software developer starting 15 years ago. I have built my expertise in programming languages that have stood the test of time, more precisely .NET. I was a .NET developer, and I worked on developing desktop and web applications for all this time. And 2 years ago, I started the challenges of the world of RPA and what this technology means. This year, in February, I became one of the 62 worldwide Uipath MVPs. So I'm proud to say that, and I have the T-shirt from their side. Now, let's go on what Uipath is and what it means for the community. And I'm very proud to say that I'm part of this community, which is a vibrant ecosystem of more than 1.5 million of professionals and citizen developers who are succeeding together in their automation career. Uipath offers an academy program which allows you to freely learn the skill of the future. Even if you are a business analyst or you are a developer, you can enroll to different programs based on the role, and it offers you for free the trainings and all the material needed to get on board. It has also a vast community with a forum like any other well-known technologies, but not least it provides the events which allows us to connect with like-minded people and share best practices. I'm here today based on the invitation of the Uipath as an MVP member. So this is one event which allows me to connect with you, and I'm very grateful for this. If you want to know more, you can start your journey by visiting the learner page. I will start by posting it here into the chat. If you want to learn more about what it is and how you can start your adventure with RPA. Following, I will present the next community I'm being part of, Accessa Rpa, which I'm an active leader in the RPA area. Accessa is part of Ratio Data Group and is a leading technology company headquartered in Cluj-Napoca, where I currently am. Over the past 17 years, the company has been establishing itself as an employer of choice for IT professionals who are very passionate about problem solving through technology and want to have a measurable impact through their work, myself included here. This is why I'm here. Accessa is a trusted partner for major brands in retail, financial services, manufacturing, automotive. And in November last year, started a new journey with Ratio Data AG, which is one of the largest system houses and service provider for banking technology and document digitalization in Germany. But let's stop the talk for a moment here about the communities, and let's jump into the RPA topic. I will start by providing you on an introduction of what RPA means. And what I can say is that RPA is the acronym for Robotic Process Automation. Robotic comes from an entity which has the capabilities to mimic the human action. Process is nothing else than a sequence of steps that lead to meaningful actions or tasks. And then the automation part is what it means. The tasks are happening automatically without the human intervention. RPA aims at automating what humans can do with their hands and eye, or how I can see it, as long as a human can operate an application, a robot should be able to do it as well. It's not the easiest thing all the time, but it's RPA credo. Simply put, RPA, or Robotic Process Automation, is the technology that enables computer software to emulate and integrate actions typically performed by human interacting with digital system. That interaction can depend and can differ. It can be keyboard inputs, mouse movement and clicks, and even reading computer screens. And let's to clarify what RPA is not. Because a lot of people, when they hear about RPA, they do think about robots which are able to talk, chatbots, and even warehouse robots. But in the following slides, I will provide a clear overview of why RPA is not any of these things, but is instead a software assistant which gives time back, as I like to call it. What robots can do. Actually, as I just mentioned, what human can do. They can log into application, they can move files and folder, they can even write and read from the databases, scrape data from the web, connect to system APIs, they can extract data from the documents, even if they are PDFs, documents, emails, or other forms. They can even open emails and attachments and make calculations. Between the benefits of the RPA, I can mention that the major ones are increased execution speed, enhanced accuracy, and reduces process execution cost. The RPA robots actually provide no mistakes and are not resting either. Once a robot has been configured to follow a process, it will not grow tired and won't take any liberties regarding the steps in the process. What can I say more is that it will not get bored either by doing the same repetitive task. And what I can say that is very quick to implement and powerful to scale. Where I have helped automating the process with RPA in different departments from different companies. I helped and made robots which are now in production on the educational part. Because we are working together with different universities, I helped there for scheduling the meetings, for the classrooms and online learning, on the enrollment process even. It can be applied also on the supply chain for the inventory management process. The invoices and contract one, as I mentioned, it's able to read documents and understand what is written there if trained accordingly. Also in the IT for monitoring some applications and processes there. I will go further and just tell you the next department namings, because there are a lot on HR, on client services, accounting, and operations. There are a lot of use cases which can be automated, and with UiPath technology, you can find out automatically which processes can be automatized on your machine through the help of process mining, which I will cover next in the following slides, or manually. It's an entire platform which can bring you to the future of the automatization. Now, I would like to go into a small comparison between the .NET and RPA, and a personal feedback of why I chose RPA over .NET. First, I will have a short presentation or a comparison between the two. As I see it, there are two different technologies which are very different because they serve different needs in the world of IT. And I will go now into this slide, and I will just want to point you some of the main ideas which I think are worthwhile mentioning. In one hand, RPA is an innovative software technology to automate the business process. To perform their duties, the RPA robots rely on a collection of rules which people apply to execute the business process. RPA is very user-friendly and it's cost-efficient. This gives you several benefits that are attracting now to, which are attracting the attention of several companies across many enterprises. But on the other hand, .NET is a developer platform. It comprises of different programming languages, as you may know, and it's used to develop either desktop, mobile, web application, and also some gaming application extensions. I can go deeper and deeper with the technical details of each one, but from my point, there cannot be a definite conclusion to the .NET and RPA comparison. It is directly dependent of the real business demand of the company, since both these technologies are built for serving different needs. .NET allows you a rapid application development, while RPA brings the automation that pushes digital change and the future of the business. So even if we go to say that, okay, why RPA or why .NET, from my point of view, it's what is the need of the company, and then choose the best technology which serves that need. I will not be able to choose one over the other because from my point of view, as I just mentioned, depends on the real business demand, and not the I will not put technology first before the business demand. I will choose and understand first the business and then the technology as a second step. But this is how I've just mentioned my personal overview about this topic, and I will let you discover more on yourself if you want to read more. I copied previously the link where you can start your journey and diving more into the RPA. Now, I just want to emphasize for me why I chose RPA. I chose it firstly because it's a cutting edge technology, and I see it as a startup challenge because it is at the beginning. Yes, RPA is less technical in comparison to .NET. You won't be developing software, but you will automate process that will be used to drive faster end-to-end customer journey. They will improve customer experience and also cost savings. In the world of RPA, you are more involved in the business than as an experienced .NET developer. Still, I am able to apply all the software engineer principle in the RPA, like solid principle, design patterns. All these will help me enforce governance, clean code, and unit testable process. Although by writing code means completely different than in .NET, your coding will be, let's say, 20%. and the rest of 80% will be problem solving of the business need. I work as a RPA developer, and I must say I really enjoy it because I do get to sit with business and technology experts every day to understand the business requirements and develop something tangible to improve the end-to-end delivery. The sense of gratification I feel when my process is working as expected in the production environment and saving the business unnecessary cost is my utmost reward. And this keeps me smiling every day because an automation can be delivered and can be put in production in less than a few days. Let's say, depending on the process, from 3 to 4 days to 6 months, but you can see very easy and fast that gratification, which, how I just said, it makes me smile and I really enjoy it. But working with RPA, it's also very cool because you can be enthralled by the fact that you can work with artificial intelligence. For example, we are doing document understanding processes where we enhance the models for understanding different layouts of those documents with the help of machine learning models. But even though I'm doing that, from my point of view, RPA is not for everyone, just because you are not writing code every day. You are solving different types of problems. And from my point of view, only those individuals which have great attention to detail, they are curious, they have analytical skills and logic, also problem solving, are most likely to enjoy working in such fields because, how I said, you are there to solve a business problem and focus on solving that problem from the business perspective and less on the technical challenges one. Even though you are working with AI and you can encounter AI and writing Python models to extend the one which are out of the box, this is just a small part of what you are doing. Now, I would like you to have a short quiz, and that's why if you can put the answers in the chat, it will be very nice for you. For the first question should be, what is RPA from your understanding? From what I mentioned till now, it is the technology that enables a software program to mimic human actions, or it is identical to a warehouse robot, or it comes from repetitive process automation. What do you think? Anyone is daring to answer this first question? I'm not able to see anything in the chat. So no one is daring. If no one will want, I can repeat the correct answer, and I can say that, as I just mentioned before, is the technologies that enable a software program to mimic human actions. I will go now to the next one. Maybe you dare on that one. What are the major advantages of RPA? Increased execution speed. They are error prone and reduce cost of process execution. Or they increase execution speed, they enhance accuracy and reduce cost of process execution. Or the third answer, increase execution speed, enhance accuracy, and slow to implement. If no one dares either here, I can just repeat the fact that the major advantages of RPA is the fact that they increase execution speed, they enhance accuracy, and they reduce the cost of process execution. Maybe you will get more involved to the next one. because I prepared two. Now, I want to go deeper into what RPA really means and to provide you a glimpse of it. And first, if you would like, I prepared for today a demo which I would like to build together with you. That's why if you want to do it and download the Visual Studio, I'm pasting here in the chat the link where you can sign up for the Uipath Automation Cloud, and from there you will have the button to download the studio. It's an IDE which is very similar with Visual Studio, and it's very easy to start your first automation. If you want the challenge, I do encourage you to follow these 2 steps. And while you do so, I will continue with the presentation. This is just the preparation for the work. And I want to go and talk more about the automation first mindset, a mindset which we have also because we are .NET developers, and what we are doing, we are solving problems. What Uipath does, it creates an environment which nurtures automation first, and it wants to accelerate human achievement. It was just mentioned on the Uipath site that as Bill Gates envisioned a world with a PC for every person, Uipath envisions a world with a robot for every person. When every person has a robot to help with the mundane task, it frees them to use time for higher level work. To help humans, robot not only must go and do the grunt work, but they need to be able to act intelligently. With AI and machine learning, robots can extend the scene of work they complete beyond the rule-based action to judgment tasks. So the based rules which are fixed there can be enhanced, and the RPA capabilities can work together with AI, even if it's an out-of-the-box model provided by Uipath, or it's a model which you use by yourself. And as I mentioned in the first minutes, I said that Uipath is able to provide an entire platform which helps you discover about the processes which can be automatized, and then to help you develop the process, help you put them in production, engage with the human, because there might be processes which might need people interaction, and also measures some benefits of the automatization. So on the first part, there are tools like Automation Hub, where you can manually submit your idea to a process, or you can have tools like process mining and task mining, which automatically run in background, and based on the user action, they are able to identify processes or pieces of a process which can be translated into RPA with the help of Studio, even if it's Studio X, which is targeting every citizen, or with Studio, which is a more technical part of it, or Studio Pro, the latest edition, which helps you build test cases. This is the main IDE tool, which builds the automation. For managing all the processes, Uipath envisioned a manager. The main orchestrator is called Orchestrator, and there you can upload all the robots and trigger them or schedule to be triggered. Then you will have the robots who actually are running those jobs on the machines which is targeted. And if you need a human to do some validations before, in order for the software robot to finalize its job, you can do so with the help of Action Center, which is a web-based application where you can input data to an RPA robot, so it receives that input, and afterwards he continues the job in unattended manner. And then it has the Uipath Insights, which is the analytical tool helping you to provide the business metrics and how the robot run, and you can see also the cost benefits there based on those analytics. The core components of Uipath Suite is the Uipath Studio, which is an advanced tool that enables you to design the automation processes in a visual manner through the diagrams, like Microsoft Flow, for example. It has a built-in recorder, it has drag and drop widgets and best practices templates to model the robotic process fast. You just have to see it, and I will show you to you in a few minutes. That is very similar to Visual Studio as organization also. And if you are accustomed with building desktop application on building the web forms part, the Windows Forms application with drag and drops of controls, it's very similar to it. But let us dig into it a bit later. The next main core feature, it is the robot, which is the executor of those workflow. It executes the processes which you build in Studio as a human would do. It can work in an unattended manner, run independently without human supervision or in any environment, or as assistant attended by a human, where the human decides when they want to start the process, when they want to stop it, or to wait for something else. There is also the hybrid version, when the robot runs in background for a while, then in order to continue his job, he asks for an input, and after receiving that input, he continues in an unattended manner as well. And the part which connects these two pieces together, the Uipath Orchestrator, which is a web application, which enables you to deploy, schedule, monitor, and manage the robots and processes. And also you are being able to see there exceptions if the jobs failed or not. You can think of Uipath Orchestrator as the manager that gets the most out of the robot workforce and keep an eye on what it's doing, basically. It's a single place to manage and optimize the work across your attended and unattended robots, and controls the distributions of the automations. You will see all the logs of the robots, the user actions, as I just mentioned. It's integrated with AI Center, and it's able also to flag the business exception built into the automations. So this can be as an orchestra, where the studio is used to writing the notes and create the actual portative. The assistant is the actual interpretation and the concert, just like artists from the orchestra, which perform the actual songs, which are the robots, and the orchestrator is the conductor of all this. This is how I see it in just a few non-technical terms. As you see it, this is the main interface of Uipath Studio, which is the tool where the RPA developers can design the automation. They are doing it by dragging, dropping the activities from the activity panel to the designer panel, and they are connected to them sequentially or based on the logic which is defined. As I mentioned before, for me, it's very similar to building Windows forms with Visual Studio. The Orchestrator, which is the head of the automation management, it gives you the power, as you can see here, to deploy and trigger, or even monitor and measure the work of every robot. And as I just talked a few slides ago, there are several ways in which a robot can interact with a human. They can be the no robot part, where you do everything by yourself. You can have a robot which is on your machine installed, and you start its job and you stop it where you want it. That it's called the attended part. You can have a hybrid interaction with it, as mentioned before, where some parts are done in unattended manner, but for the continuity of the job, you are asked to intervene and to validate or provide some input in order for the software robot to continue its job. And you have the fully unattended part, where you have an automation which the robot will run, and in the end he can provide you just the report and the status that the task is completed or which is failed, and some logs according to how you schedule it and you define those set of rules he executes. Now let's go a bit further with the preparation of the first RPA automation. If you went to the link I pasted here, and if you wanted, you now have already downloaded the Uipath Studio on your machine. The next steps are just to run the MSI, sign into the Uipath cloud from Uipath Studio, and then you'll have a blue splash screen where you will have from Studio X, Studio, and Studio Pro to choose from. Depending on the type of license, you can switch any of the profile. You can do the switching also from the settings once you have started Uipath Studio. While you are installing the studio, I will go and create a simple hello world. And because I have already Studio on my machine, what I will do is just put it here for you. Let me check if you see it from the conference. So I think that now you can see it. And I will stop the presentation so that I can go and talk more on what you can go directly do with Visual Studio. Let me organize a bit because I think that you still see the PowerPoint. I will close it so that now you are able to see just my Visual Studio. Here is the main stage where the good things happen. As you can see, it resembles to Uipath, to Visual Studio. It has here an activity channel part where you can find all the actions which you can drag and drop from here to the right side to the designer part. This is the designer. And here are the properties for each action you are wanting to do on your work or on your automation. For example, I just mentioned that we can go and have a simple hello world. I will put here a log message, which what will do here in the output window, as in the output of Visual Studio, will output a message. I can put hello world. These are the types of log levels which you can configure. For this, I will put just info. And as I mentioned, the properties, as on the Windows forms, here you are setting all the properties which are offered to be configured by this component, which is the log message component. And now I can just run this file, and once it will run, in the output window, we can see the text that which I logged, the hello world part. What it enhances and provides, UiPath offers you this recording feature, which is very important to Uipath Studio because help you to save a lot of time when automating business processes. This functionality enables you to easily capture the user actions on the screen and they translate them automatically into sequences like this. If I click on this button, then on the next button, and will automatically present to you after the recording is finished that sequence. And you are having the automation ready just in a matter of minutes, while it takes you to follow the business process. On the action part, here we can select different kind of activities which enables you to build the automation, shows you everything which you have available now based on the project dependencies you have imported. You can manage and extend these dependencies as in Visual Studio by clicking the Manage Packages. Here you can set the sources of the packages because in the end, an RPA robot is nothing else than a Nugget package. So you here put the sources for your packages and afterwards you can use them in your automation. Once you enhance the dependencies on the activities part, you will have more on them. To add an activity to the automation, you can drag and drop it from the activities panel to the designer one, or you can use double click and will be added automatically. You can search for activities using this search box, for example. And what I can mention even more, if they are already built-in activities, actions provided by UiPath, handling Excel files, for example. If I go here and I search for Excel, we can see there are a lot of built-in actions which allows you to manipulate the Excel files, reading cells, writing data, working directly with workbooks, finding all the sheets, all that. You can have also mailing activities which allow you to go and get some emails, delete the email, attaching emails and sending emails. It has already built in for the Exchange, for IBM Notes, Outlook, Gmail, and others. Even more, how I just said, you can build your own manage activity and you can import it here. In the last demo, this is what I proposed to do, just to show you how you can build in Visual Studio an activity and you can import it in your automation. It's very useful in cases you are very accustomed with handling, for example, APIs. There are HTTP actions. If you import the package built by UiPath and it helps you go and interrogate the API through those actions directly from the designer, but I found it that in some cases it's very difficult to handle the response. And hence, I encourage to use then a custom library, just so that when you have the library built in, you provide the response with only what is important for the automation, not to have the entire response from the web API and then manipulate it here in the automation, where you do not need all those data, and so you do abstraction there. Going further on presenting you on the interface of the studio, as I mentioned, I arrange it now to be on my right side, because I was accustomed with the Windows forms, the properties panel. You can arrange it wherever you need, but here is the part where you can configure the input and the output of your action. The activity of log message, for example, has here the log level, the message which will be, and the name which will be displayed. For the part where we see the output, each process, we will have a start and a stop, and the amount of time it took to run. And between those two messages, you can put whatever you want. And here, for example, because I used the log message, I outputted the hello world part. We can have also the breakpoints as in Visual Studio, and you can debug the process, and you can have conditional breakpoints, and you can see all your local variables here on the local part. You can watch them, what you need, and you have even the immediate window where if you are interested on some variables, you just output them here. I will stop for this and then continue to present you some of some best practices I think are worthwhile mentioning, like do the design before building, as in any software. The analyzation of the process in very detail helps you build a very scalable solution. This is the case also for RPA. In order to build a scalable process, you need to identify the requirements and plan what the solution should look like before you actually do the development. Because, for example, we have built an automation which fulfills a business need, and in the end, it's got working together 14 robots, RPA robots. Yes, it's a big business process, and the development took for 6 months, but doing and delivering the business need, which was required by our customers, took 16 RPA robots, which are all connected and work together via the AI center or via the orchestrator and via other types of communication. They run all to achieve one goal. So it's very important from my point of view, in order to build a scalable process, always to think before you start. And this is not only for RPA, I think it's also from every language, programming languages. So I think that I just mismatched the chat where people are writing. I wrote in a backstage chat, and sorry for that. I am now here and pasting again all the links I have posted in the wrong chat. I apologize for that. There were two chats from this stream. One was the backstage and one was the live stage. And I was just in the wrong one. I was in the backstage, and I'm seeing now that you have someone help me in posting everyone, and you have also answered the questions and I haven't seen them. Apologize for that. I will go now to the next ones, and I will continue. Now we are all aligned with the channels and everything. Where I was, yes, on the designing before building. Break the process down into several components. This is also happening in RPA, because as we usually do, we have to build small independent components in order to make the software robust, scalable, and also from the performance perspective, and to allow them to be as independent as possible. So break them into smaller functions in Visual Studio. Here it's breaking them down into smaller workflow. This is one workflow, for example, as in Visual Studio you have classes. Here you have, it is called a workflow because it's not object oriented. It is just a linear process where you have some executions and some execution steps, and those steps can be organized in workflow. And one workflow can contain several actions. So here, for example, it's as program CS in a console application. The entry point of an automation is the main.xaml file. And from here, you can call and you can organize your rules with then the instruction which the robot will execute one by one. He will go, and from the main entry point, he will take all the steps you have defined. Here, for example, I prepared the second demo I will show, and here I'm calling a custom library which will do some activities, then I will output the message. If I would like to call also the hello world we just created, with drag and drop, I can define its next step or next action to do as a robot. So after you do all this part, which is an addition, you put the message, please output also hello world. But this is just a simple use case. More often what you have when working with RPA, you have a framework which allows you to better organize your process into different state machines, and the process will go like in web. State machine concept is the same from one state machine to the other. You will have one initialization phase, and then where you initialize all the application which you are working with, or the variables, or you will have the configuration if you are depending on such files. Afterwards, you will want to see what you have to do and with what data you are working with. That is called preparing for the transaction the robot will work for. And afterwards, for every transaction he will deal with, he will go and process those transactions. And that transactions can be processed in how you organize them. And if you are handling 3 or 4 applications, for example, it's better to break them into smaller components. What is also useful to know is that if you are working several times with the same applications, you can even build a library based on that. And when you need the same application to be used on a different automation, you just can import and reuse that part, not to redo it each time. This has an impact in effectiveness, because different team members can work with that part, or even you, and you do not have to redo that part. That part was already tested on the first part, and you are basically having a more fast pace on developing. Then what is also worth mentioning is that you can have here sequences. If I go to design and create a new sequence, the type of sequence can differ. based on what you want to do. There are different type of sequences. If they are a linear sequence where you go one instruction to the other, you have the flowchart sequence where you can have different decision making and so on. Those workflows can be organized in folder because I can create folders here. Like in Visual Studio, you can add a folder or a sequence based on how you want to group and structure your part. It's a programming language, even though, as you see, writing code is just dragging and dropping actions, but you still need to follow a naming convention and keep a consistency between all the projects, so all the team members have the same standards. While you are working with RPA robots, you still have variables and arguments. Variables are the ones which are used inside the workflows, and arguments are the ones which are passed to this workflow and from this workflow outside of it. And you want to make sure that you also configure these arguments correctly. What usually they recommend as a startup in RPA, they say to put in, out, or in output in front of the naming of the argument. For me, it was redundant because I never used that with .NET, and I'm not enforcing this to the team either, because most of all, the entire RPA team, which I'm part of, it's coming from Java or .NET. So we are using the naming conventions we were used with before. But if you go to the Foundation Academy, there you will have recommendation to use it like that. What it also enables you by default, it's allowing you to have sensitive data into the automation. For example, when you need to log into a website where login is needed, then you are able to use a credential type of data where you are not able to see the password. And you have actions which are allowing you to directly handle this type of data. So it's not plain text on the application. So the sensitive data is taken care of. And if you are a beginner and you do not know about the credentials and how to work with them from the .NET world, you can handle it directly with the actions provided by Uipath. As with any other software which you write, also the RPA robot is handling exceptions. You can handle them with try-catch blocks. And you can have also a handler which is global to the entire automation. For that, you can use the global extension handler. What can I say as a best practice? As I mentioned, I apply and I try to apply a lot of what I've learned in my .NET years, and I make them very easy to read, and I always use annotations to the workflows in the beginning of the workflow. Here, for example, you have the annotations part where you can say what these annotations do, and the input arguments, the output arguments, some details for someone who will come and review the automation to be very clear what I have done. You can put also comments in code. I use them wisely, as it is also in .NET, because your code should be readable enough without comments. And I use them only if there is an invoke code, for example, and I'm invoking something there for some colleagues which might not be so experienced with scripting. They are not familiar with all what I've done there to have a clear comment of what it's doing. And as in Visual Studio, here you have a workflow analyzer, And I always recommend to people and to my peers to always analyze the project before sending it for code reviews, because there are a set of rules based on which the analyzer works. Here, for example, analyze file. I can go and analyze the project, and based on the rules which are defined and selected for this process, you will have warnings that you do not have the corresponding naming variable, you do not have annotations, you do not have arguments very good renamed, and it helps you going further with your name and sanitize your work. So let's see how much I covered. I think that I covered what I wanted before going to the next automation, which I would like to build together with you. I will copy paste here in the chat the link where they are step by step how to do it from the Uipath documentation. This is just a walkthrough, as we can do it together in the video, in the workshop. And now this automation is just mentioned. Its scope is very easy. Is just to go and discover what is your unicorn name. Basically, it's based on a website provided by Uipath to generate a nice name. Let me first go and see the page name. If I have it here, I have it in my unicorn sample part here. This is the website, and I will want to show you. Oh, 1 second, because I will switch this screen so you are able to see. The presentation. What we will do with the automation, basically, we will write in this text a name, and then we will press the get name button, and we will get this unicorn name and put it into a log message. There are 3 simple steps I would like to do together with you. It's nothing fancy, and it's just for you to play around with Uipath and to see that in some parts for the web automation, it's very similar to Selenium. If you heard your colleagues in the automation, QA automation is done with Selenium. Selenium seems similar with what Uipath is doing, but Uipath is not only for web working, but it's for any ERP solution. So you can go and, for example, input data, extract reports directly from the user interface of SAP or any other application you hand. Application which you are doesn't have an API or its database, it's so big and you do not have the expert who built it or the documentation, and you have just the end user who knows from where he gets the data from the screen, and from there he wants to import it into the new tool. Doing the import from the old tool to the new one, just having an end user there with you is very straightforward and very fast to handle. But I'm just saying that you are not able to link to load the link. I'm having the same issue for Uipath. It's not an issue because we will do the steps together for you to have an easier struggle with. I will output here on the chat all the steps which are also on the Uipath documentation. Basically, we will do those steps together. So first, what we want to do is to go and tell the RPA robot that you have to open a web page. On that web page, please go and navigate to this URL. Once it is loaded, and for the sanity check, usually you have to check that the page was loaded. On the demo, we will not do that, but while as a best practice, you always have to make sure that everything is correctly done on your side. So you check that the page is loaded. Once it's loaded, you can go and enter a name in the field. Enter name, press the get button, and then get the unicorn name. What I can do, I can go here, I can create a new one. This is already done, and it's more enhanced one because it's reading some data from an Excel file. I will run this in the end to just show it. But meanwhile, I want to create together those steps and to see that it's very easy to do. I'm just creating a new use case, a new sequence. Here, I created my sequence. So the first step, as I mentioned, was to go and open the browser. So we go and have to open the browser. Here on the application, I want to say that let's open the EA browser because this is by default your extension setup. If you would want to go and set up different extensions to use different automation browsers, here, basically on the home side, you can have different settings on Studio, and you can choose and install the Uipath extension available for the browsers. And we will cover this part a little bit further because here you will have also the source control management, some templates of some projects you can set up. But let's first go and finalize the sample. So you provided what browser you want to open, and then you have to provide, okay, navigate to what page, and I'm pasting here the page. Once I have done that, I will go and with Internet Explorer, I will open this page. Because I want to identify the text where I have to enter some text, the identifier of the button, and this part. And here, as I do not know if you know, but there was a tool which I used to use when I was developing Windows Form. It was called ELSpy, where you could identify the elements of desktop application. Similar to that, Uipath is able to provide you an explorer, which is called UI Explorer. And with that, I can identify the elements from the page. But first, we have the browser. Then what I want to say is to set the text into that control. And I have to indicate where I want to set it. With F2, I will show, 1 second. I have 3 seconds now to close and to put in front the main window so that I can discover them with UI Explorer. Now I identify this element and I want to open it in UI Explorer so that I can make sure that it's correctly identified. And here is the element, its parent, and here are some properties of it. And I want to make sure it's uniquely identified on the page, and I choose as identifier its ID, so that I make sure that when I'm setting the text, I'm setting it in the proper field, not anywhere else. And Uipath is able to identify it given its uniquely identifier. So this is the ID, and here for this time I'm hard coding a variable, you might want to assign it using the assign variable or whatever you will choose for this demo. Then I will have to go, and as I mentioned, we will need to press the click the button. So we will do a click activity. And here, as before, I will indicate the button. I want to see the element once again in the UI Explorer so that I can select a unique identifier for it. I will choose again the ID. And then we will get the text from the label which is on the part. And because I do not have a name here, I will press Ctrl F2. Hopefully I will have 3 seconds to get it. And let's see. Press again F2 to increase so that I can have the text here displayed to be able to identify it. Now you can see this is the label where the name was put it. It's just written the text as I copy it now, because this is a screenshot of the element for you to be easy to identify it when you walk through the automation. But for us, doesn't say much this name. You can edit the selector with edit, and you can see if the element is well identified by indicating it into the screen. I will not use any of that. What I want to do is go again and choose an element of identification, which is uniquely. And I will choose that this element should be identified from his parent. And as ID, it has the unicorn name label. I'm saving it. And as output value of this property, I can create a variable. So the value of the unicorn name is stored in a variable. You can first define the variable on the variable part, or with a shortcut, which is Ctrl K, you can directly define here the variable. And I'm doing so. And then I will put a log message to see the result. I will choose info and my and that should be it. Now let's test it. I can run only this workflow with debug file. I do not want to run the entire automation, just this part. And now one by one, the application went, opened the link, enter my name, and entered it here into this text, into this text field, press the button, and then got it from the label and output it here as my unicorn. Sorry for the typo. Is delightful twinkle sweetie. And that was it, our first automation. I hope you did manage to do it together with me, because I will want to talk you more on how it went. Now let's see on the presentation which are the next steps I have prepared for you. And here I wanted to talk more on the Uipath marketplace and the reusable components, and how you can connect Visual Studio with Uipath. As I mentioned, it's very easy, and they are already built-in tools which allow you to easily build a custom library in Visual Studio, and then to enhance your packages from Uipath Studio with this library. Let me first go and search for the marketplace. Hopefully this link for Uipath is working. And I will paste it also here in the link, so you have it. And here, as you can see, as in any other development place, like for mobile applications like Apple or Google, you have a place where you have a lot of extensions which are already done by companies or by developers and submitted to this marketplace, so that you can use them in your development without reinventing the wheel. And you can search for them, and whatever you do with any other the marketplace, you can contribute to this marketplace yourself with your ideas. They are connectors to different business needs for process mining, for SAP, API services, and others, which just is your work. They are not doing anything else. And now, let me go into Uipath Studio and bring Visual Studio into the main stage here, so that you can see. This is a Visual Studio 2019. In order to directly use the extension manager and the extension which was provided by Uipath, you need to have at least this version of Studio. Otherwise, you will have to build your activity from ground, just extending some basic classes which are needed. But if you have 2019, from the extension managers, from the online part, you can go and search for Uipath. And here, as you can see, there is a Uipath Activity Creator. I have already installed it on my machine, so it's with green. I will not install it anymore, but you can go and install it if you would like. And it will ease up your work with the custom packages. Once you have it installed, you can go and create a new project of Uipath standard activity type. Once you have created it, let me just run the process and to do it, to show you some out-of-the-box parts which you can do directly with the help of the extension, or which in the same time you can do them in code by just adding them, the arguments of the activity. For example, there is from the extension is provided a user with UI interactions with a wizard-like part to be able to build them, or you can go directly and create the input and output arguments from code if you know how to do that. But Uipath enhanced this extension with the wizard. So test activity. I will go back because next I was on the wrong page. I put in the project name where I should have chosen the project type. I will put it here into whatever folder you want for the location, and then also you can choose the solution naming. It's a placeholder, I will use it, and then I will just go and create. It takes a while it creates. I will go basically here to my other version, not to wait. While you do so, I will cheat, as I say. So you will be posted with out of the box 3 projects in the solution. One is with the activities, one is with the designer part of the activity. And if you click one of it, you can add to this an activity, like addition, like whatever you want. I will go here and Uipath, and I will go and choose, because as I mentioned, you can do it interactive with the wizard, and I'm showing you the wizard, or you can go directly because it will bring you a simple class, and you can build the class from scratch by just extending the continuable async code activity from the Uipath part. But let me just go with the Uipath Wizard of adding the activity. You can create one or import one. We will choose create because it's from scratch. I will define it like, I don't know, test activity. You can put a description, and you can edit the properties. The properties are the input and output arguments. And here, sorry, it's on the wrong screen. Here, these are the properties you can define in the similar wizard. You can input whatever and how many properties you need. Call them, which is the category, input, output, and you can choose them, put a name on it. I'm just writing like that, and the direction, if it's an input and an output. Once you finalized with the properties, you can click finish on your activity. I will close it without clicking the finish because I have already done the addition, and I will just stop with that. This was just for the sake of the demo. And once you have finished it, you will have a new class here on the activity solution project. And there you will be able to see the arguments, input arguments and output arguments. Here for this activity, it's an addition activity where I have provided 2 input parameters, and the output will be the sum of them, for example. So I mentioned that my first argument is the first number. It's of type integer, and it's an input argument. You can have also the localization part of the display name and description and the category. In the same manner, I have the second number, and then here are the automatically generated code when you extend this type of class, and where the magic happens is on the execute async part. Usually, when it's automatically generated, you will have only this part with the inputs, and then on the output, on the return, you have to do it on your own. What we want to do, for example, here, it's define a new variable and to sum them like this, for example. But yeah, this is just for the demo. It's a very simple action. And when you finalized what you want to do, for sure you have to build it properly and not to use here in the main execute if you have a lot of functionality to be handled, but you can split it in classes and function accordingly. What you want then, when you are done with the execution, to output as an output argument the value. And here you would do that by setting the sum. And here what I want to say, okay, my output argument is the sum, and I'm finished. Once you are finished, you can go on the solution and you can publish it. I want to go here and to show you some properties first. Let me go on the project, because here you will have the part, yeah, here where you set the package version. And it's very important because, for example, you will want to set firstly, when you on your first attempt, to set the package version, and when you publish it, to set it for debug, so that you can attach a debugger inside Visual Studio. Because I think that the majority of you have done it. When you are working from outside with a library and you have the debug version of that library, you can debug it even with Visual Studio, and you can attach debugger to it. From the debug, you have attached to a process, and you attach to the automation process. And then from automation, you can put a breakpoint, and you can come here and debug your activity also. So first, when you go and publish, I recommend you to do it in debug version. And here you can choose, okay, to publish it directly in Azure. I chose a folder, and this is the folder where it is published. And once you do it, you will be prompted with this page. And here you can choose the configuration type, if it's release or if it's debug. Once you are still working on it, as I mentioned, I recommend doing it in debug. Otherwise, I recommend doing it for release, because it's faster when you work with it. So once you have finished it, you publish it, and a new Nugget package will be delivered to you. Let me see where it is. The project, because I want to go to the Internet Explorer. Here is where I publish it, and it's the Nugget package exported here on my documents. I think that I was on the desktop. I want to show you the version, because the version will be here. The Nugget package, and I will use it afterwards. This is the version, my Nugget package. This is how all the library package will appear. Once you have exported, what you have to do in Visual Studio, you have to configure in settings the source of your external packages, as I have configured mine, to take also the local ones here. Once they are taken, then on the packages you can see the custom ones, and you can install it. And which version appear, you can choose the version from here if you have several versions, because, for example, on the first version you had some errors, you corrected them, and you publish a new one, and you are able to upgrade it. And the ones which is referenced here will be the latest one, which will be used in the project. Once you install it, you save it and close it, and you will see a dependency in your project. Once the dependency is there, on the activity, I can go and search for the activities I have built in my library. In my case, the activity was the addition one, which was this one. And as you see, the properties which I define with the help of Visual Studio are the first number, the second number, and the output will be the sum. Here I hard-coded just some values and to output the sum of it. Let's see if the version I have published before it's working. Otherwise, I will have to publish a new one if we want to see more in depth. If I press now debug, I can go and see how the process is working. It will should go, call the library, do the addition of the numbers I have provided, and then output it as a result. And we are just waiting. And there is a message box on my other screen saying that the sum of the number is 18. So what we are just seeing, that my library was successfully imported, and I enhanced my activities with custom libraries which I have built or libraries which have been built by others. From the demo's perspective, this is all I wanted to show you. Just let me one moment switch to the presentation and see the rest of it together. From what I have planned for today, we still have 20 minutes. Those 20 minutes, I would like to go and do a short quiz. And then we will have the Q&A questions. I have prepared more in-depth part, but I think I will just briefly present you how to enhance the automatization with ML capabilities and what is document understanding, but I will stay there just 2-3 minutes. I will let you do yourself and discover that word if you are interested, or maybe in a next session. Let me first go and switch to the presentation. One moment. Okay. As a second quiz which I have prepared for today is this one. Sorry. Okay. I prepare my screen so now I'm able to see the chat also. Which are the Uipath core components? Studio Orchestrator Executor, or Studio Manager Robot, or Studio Orchestrator Robot? If anyone dares to respond, I recommend to do it on the chat. Now I'm seeing the right chat, not the backstage one. And I will follow accordingly. Thank you. The first answer which came through is the correct one. They call it Studio Orchestrator and Robot, even if the robot, for example, is just an executor who executes the steps. The orchestrator is indeed the manager which manages the part, but it is called orchestrator. So the correct answer for the first one is the C one. Just because it's a naming convention, nothing else. They do mean the same thing in the end, but as you might recognize him on the Uipath platform, is with Studio Orchestrator and Robot. Going to the next one. How is called the Uipath development learning platform? Uipath Academy, Uipath Community, or Uipath Citizen Developer? I'm seeing one answer for this one. I do not see if Razvan responded to the second question or the one, but the development learning platform, it is called Uipath Academy. The correct answer is A. You have a Uipath community which has the Uipath Academy forum and the citizen developer all together. The learning platform, it is called Academy, and it's free, full of trainings with video, with support of trainings, and also examples of automations where you can start all together. I will go and I just wanted to go to emphasize this before jumping to the next part, but yeah, this is the slide where emphasizes the differences between the three of them. The Academy is the learning part where you can find all the trainings. And here, let me copy paste the link which puts the foundation of what RPA is the RPA Foundation training. There you can find the first steps which are needed to know in order to do the automation with RPA. There you can find the steps, some parts of what I presented here today, and even more in-depth knowledge of the entire ecosystem. The forum is where we are able to ask questions and get answer, and also see the feedback of products. If you're interested, usually what UiPath does has 2 major releases by year in March and October. I think that these days the GA of October was recently released, but it also has insider previews, and if you are eager to learn more before others, like the beta versions, you can subscribe to insider previews and you can test features which are just freshly from the oven. Actually, I usually do that and test all the thrilling parts for AI, process mining, which is now a very big trend. And because I just want to help improving the processes, and I want to learn upfront if it's possible. And the last one is the community events, which allow you to connect together. I still have 5 minutes time before the session, and I would want to show you how basically you can enhance your RPA robots with AI. This is usually and mostly done while handling documents, because there you will have a lot of layouts, different layouts. And because on the Unicorn, for example, web page, you had a very well defined identifier, for example, for the button. You had there the ID, which I chose in order to uniquely identify that element in the page. In a document, because you get just text, it will be harder to identify uniquely one element, and it might differ. Even if the information is the same, it might be arranged differently in the page. And for that, in order to understand the document, you will need AI. And there it's where the magic begins, is that UiPath provides you a framework which allows you to easily build the document understanding one, which goes you, and you can, with the taxonomy part, you define what element you want to extract from the documents. With the digitization part, it transforms you in a format which is able to be read by the robot. And then you classify it based on the document type, if this is a letter, if it's an invoice, if it's a bill, or whatever type of document. And based on what you say, you extract the values. For extracting the values, you usually, if you have different layouts, as I mentioned, you do machine learning models. UiPath, through the help of AI Center, it's the old name was AI Fabric. That's why I'm a bit focused, keeping pace with the new names. So with AI Center, you have out-of-the-box models, which are Python models, which are built by UiPath and trained by UiPath, and you can use them directly. And you can use the data manager to add extra fields and to retrain them, those models, but not to start from scratch. You can even start from scratch if it's your desire, or you can build your own Python model and just put it uploaded in AI Center. Or even more, you can not output it or in AI Center, but create your own hosting web server for that model. This depends on the needs, actually. But what UiPath does, it helps you a lot, because it has built-in models, and then you go and use that model directly from AI Center. And that model, it might fail, and you will use the concept of how I said, human in the loop, and a human will validate sometimes if the robot said that, okay, I was not able to fully extract the data, I'm just 50% sure, and with 50% a robot is not sure enough from my point of view, so I ask a human to validate it. The human will validate, and what gives extra UiPath with that validation of the human, you can retrain the model, and then when it will run the second time for that type of document, he was already retrained and the validation will not be asked. So the process is very well enhanced. In order to have all this, it's an entire ecosystem provided by UiPath. The first part is the document understanding framework. The second one is the AI Center, where you can have the out-of-the-box models, and then you can define them, you can retrain them if you want, or build your own here. And here I prepared a video on how to do it, but I will skip it due to the time. And the remaining time, I would want to focus on the Q&A part. And also to thank you for wanting to spend the time together on learning the RPA. So now I'm looking onto the chat, and if you have any question, please do not hesitate to ask there.
Hi, Maria. Thank you for the very nice presentation and for the workshop. I think people have enjoyed it. We saw a lot of engagement in the chat. I would say let's jump into the questions right away. So let me just open the Q&A tool. Okay, I think let's start with that one. Should be an easy one. So the first question is, to start RPA, is it recommended to have .NET knowledge basics?
No. The RPA allows you, through the help of Uipath Academy, to start freshly. It helps you if you had technical knowledge, but is not required to have .NET knowledge. All the language which you write now offers you two possibilities to choose between WeAreDevelopers, because the first version of UiPath, which was launched years ago, it was only WeAreDevelopers code when writing the string manipulation and others, but now allows you to choose between .NET and C#.
Okay, perfect. Maybe related to this question, can you tell anything about what's the usual tech role, or what's the usual career path to basically get in touch with these systems, or if you want to work fully with that, what is the usual role? Maybe also from your personal perspective, how have you grown into that?
So I've started directly as a solution architect since I was a technical lead on the .NET side. It was a struggle in the first 3 months because I was used with .NET world, and everything in .NET cannot be fully applied in RPA, and it's a challenge to apply all the solid principle, design patterns and everything, but I will always try to figure how I can apply all I need. But if you do not have that, and if you want to start directly with RPA from the technical perspective, it is as any language. It's a low coding language, not like .NET or Java. You usually do drag and drop, and as I mentioned before, here you do a lot of business analysis. Also as a developer, there are well-defined roles in the world of RPA. There is a BA and there is a developer, there is a solution architect, but mostly as a developer, you always go and understand the client need and his problem, because this is solving business problems mostly than technical ones.
Okay, that's interesting. Then one question from Christina: how many robots can you run? Or maybe can you tell us maybe a broader information about some benchmarks or some limitations and so on?
From the point of view, a robot is a software, is an entity. It's like a small task which runs for you. That's called the software part of it. From the licenses perspective, Uipath has the community part, and there are enterprise licenses. There is the orchestrator, as I mentioned, and a robot which is able to run 24/7 different jobs. Those software robots. And in the 24/7 amount of time, it basically depends on how much time one automation takes for that licensed robot, for that executor, basically. So that's it. Depends actually on the amount of time your automation spends it to fulfill the business process. If it takes 30 seconds, it's just 30 seconds, and then you have the 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 30 seconds left to do other jobs.
Okay, so basically one part of the job also, if you want to look at the costs and watch out of the costs, then actually you also need to kind of put it kind of simple, or not simple, but like not make the processes too complicated, and find of the shortest ways to fulfill a job, right? So
Yes.
kind of optimization.
Yeah. Performance is important also to RPA, yes.
Okay. Good. Then another simple question from Oken1. Is the studio working on Mac? The Mac version?
Unfortunately, on Mac, no.
Okay, but you can always run bootcamp on Mac.
Sure.
Valley is asking, we've been using IBM RPA. Can you tell a bit about differences?
I do not know the IBM RPA. I know that there are several tools in the market. The first three best marketed there. It's Uipath, Blue Prism, Automation Anywhere. And now I've seen that nowadays also Microsoft started powering up and building more into the Power Automate part. So there are a lot of tools doing the same thing. I think it's just a preference of choice, which one you choose. Based on also cost analysis and also what can be done. I think that from the Uipath and Blue Prism, I consider Uipath to be more technical and to be able to build at the moment more robust processes, but it's very easy to build automation with Automation Anywhere, for example, that I have tried.
Okay. I remember a Gartner chart where I think Uipath was on the top. Top right, so should be a good solution to go and start. Let me see if there is any other question. Igor has another interesting question. How to do code review in Uipath? Is the configuration of the orchestrator part of the responsibility of the Uipath developer? And thank you for the interesting presentation.
Thank you also for your time. The orchestrator is on the infrastructure engineer on my team. I think that mostly depends on how you structure the team. There are very technical parts on orchestrator, which I didn't want my team development part to be bothered with. How to publish a package, how to move it from one part, how to define the assets and everything. Yet is the developer, or at least the developer should well define it in the solution design document he provides it, and from there to be taken by someone else. But mostly it depends on the team organization. We are not handling it from the development point of view, but from the infrastructure engineer. As the first part of the question, can you repeat it?
Like, how do you code review?
You have integrations with Visual Studio, with TFS, source Git, and SVN. You have branches, and you can see the differences from the versions there. It's not that easy with Visual Studio comparing the two files, but you have a comparison directly in Uipath Studio, which does it, but you have to have the file locally. But as I mentioned, it can be done. It's not as easy at the moment as it is with Visual Studio.
Okay.
But we are doing it, and we are working with branches, and all the work you can do with branches, branch per functionality, merging them with Git pools. They are Azure pipelines, for example, which you are using it, and we are not allowing the commit onto the main branch without two reviewed by the person, but that is done on our side with the Azure pipelines, which are provided, and there is an extension from the Uipath.
As you mentioned the team, what would you say from your experience? How big is a team dealing with RPA, and how does it also work to kind of make decisions? Because you mentioned the developer will also have to think about the solutions, because it's actually about understanding the business and what is needed and so on. But obviously, you need to kind of recheck that, because if you make a mistake, it can go the wrong way. So what is, from your experience, kind of the best way to handle these things?
What we have tried and we are trying to do, but I do not say that can be done in the mass, is we have chose is to have more people handling with one automation. We have the standard role of PM, which is making sure that delivery is on time. We have a business analyst which analyzes directly with the client, and with the client will come with the idea of the automation. Then with the business analyst and the stakeholder will work together to optimize and standardize that process, because in a lot of cases they are not standard processes. They have a lot of exceptions. They do not have shortcuts. They go through the UI, and if we can identify shortcuts, or if they are some things that allows us to go back in the stage with API, even if they have it and they know it, it's faster and it's it's more accurate than doing to the UI and relying on the UI. We have that part. Then we have the developer, which is talking directly with the BA, ensuring that he understands the process as it is defined by the business analyst. We have in the same team also a technical lead or a solution architect, which is involved mostly with the business analyst while optimizing and standardizing the process. So if they are, for example, if you go into a web page, if the URL can be built dynamically by some IDs, we can go and build in behind the scenes. And then if we go and navigate directly to that URL. But that, if the BA hasn't a technical background, he doesn't know that. The solution architect will help to standardize and optimize the process, having those this knowledge. And then usually we do not have a tester just now. We envision, because now our partners are asking it to have it, because we are starting to build our own center of excellence. So we want to make automation tests with Uipath Studio Pro, and to build automation which have also unit tests in them. And we have the infrastructure engineer, which help us throughout all the partners, who knows more on the DevOps side of the things. But somehow these are the four key members of the team: the PM, developer, BA, and architect, solution architect.
Okay, and ideally like one tester to add.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Good, Maria. I think it was super interesting. I would be happy to see you soon again. I think it's an important topic as everything gets more automated, and I think that not too many companies, or especially also not too many developers, are familiar with RPA. But it's really powerful. So I hope that also people in our audience could enjoy it and learn something, and also try it out. I think that's the most important part. Try it out. It's super interesting. So Maria, I would like to say thank you so much for joining us, and I hope to see you soon again.
Thank you also. And yes, I also consider that RPA, it's a niche technology nowadays, and it's worthwhile trying, not just jumping into it, but at least try it as everything else. Thank you again.
Exactly. That's the life of us developers. So Maria, thank you. Bye. And
bye.
Yeah, we are going into our lunch break, and we will see each other again at 2 p.m. with our next afternoon sessions. We will have 3 very interesting talks about GPRC in .NET, about machine learning in .NET, and GraphQL in .NET. So stay tuned, have something nice for lunch, and see you again.
Hello everyone, I'm Albert and welcome to adding AI or ML to your automations with AI Center. What ML models does AI Center offer? Great question. AI Center offers more than 25 pre-built ML models in document processing, object detection, text classification, sentiment analysis, entity recognition, demand forecasting, anomaly detection, and many more. If you want to use your own ML models, AI Center operates exactly how it would with a pre-built model.